你吃你妈，哈贝。
Ever since food delivery took off in China, I have seen delivery riders tamper with the food over and over. New videos of riders deliberately ruining the food they are delivering keep surfacing, spitting into drinks, dropping in toothpicks, sticking a foot into the food, blowing their nose into the soup. A lot of that footage comes from cameras inside elevators, but some of it was filmed by the riders themselves to send to friends to show off. If this were just about eating the food, we could understand it. It breaks the rules, but it still comes from an ordinary human urge. Sometimes temptation is just hard to resist. Eating the food you are delivering actually happens everywhere. A 2019 American survey of around 500 drivers found 28% had taken food from an order, and more than half said the smell alone had tempted them. 1 in 5 customers had already suspected it was happening to them, and 85% said they wanted restaurants to seal the bag. So, some places in America passed laws about it. California moved first, and since 2021, restaurants there have been required to seal every delivery bag before the driver ever touches it. A few other states have been writing their own versions since. So if you have lived in America, you will have noticed that most of your deliveries come sealed. But as I said, Chinese delivery packaging is not just there to stop riders from eating your food. It also has to stop them from ruining it. So a lot of Chinese delivery packaging is insane, because the point is no longer stopping something from being taken out, it is stopping something from being put in. The lid of every single box gets wrapped in plastic film before anything else happens. Then the boxes go into a bag, and the bag gets stapled shut along with the receipt. Then a seal goes over the opening, printed with a line telling you to refuse the order if the label is broken. Some places seal the inner bag, and then staple the outer one on top of that. The seals are made from material that shatters the moment you peel it, so it cannot be put back. And the law now spells out what does not count, not tape, not staples, not rubber bands, not cable ties, because the standard is no longer whether you can tell it was opened, it is whether it can be closed again. But what actually motivates these riders to do this? What keeps feeding that anger? I mean, when they do this, they're clearly doing something that hurts you without helping them. They even film themselves doing it. This is nothing like eating the food, where at least you get something out of it. And here we have to get at something that sits at the core of a lot of leftist thinking, which is, I will do something that leaves everyone worse off, including me, because I do not want to be your slave anymore. If the world only runs smoothly because I'm enslaved to it, then the world is better off not running at all. This is how Chinese platforms are built. A delivery paid under $1.50, and a complaint from the customer costs $30. Clicking the button a few seconds too early costs $7, so you could finish a job owing the platform money. And none of that money ever went back to the customer. A fight that belonged between the platform and the customer got handed down to the 2 people at the bottom, and the rider knew exactly whose finger was on the button. In 2025, because of Chinese government pressure, the platforms pulled a lot of this back. But by then it had run for 10 years, and it had manufactured countless fights between ordinary people. The customer was only one of them, and then there was the guard at the gate. Most Chinese housing compounds are walled, and some owners push the property company to keep outsiders out entirely. But a rider cannot mark his order delivered until his phone is inside that wall. So in China, you get to watch riders and security guards go at each other over and over. On Chinese social media, this is its own niche because that kind of footage pulls views. If you want to watch poor people fight over money and humiliate themselves, you do not have to spend millions of dollars the way Mr. Beast does. In China, you can watch it for free. These clashes with other people are one source of the anger, but they are not the whole story. The rest of it is that the conditions are terrible while the pay stays ordinary. Plenty of riders have to keep delivering through extreme weather. Plenty have to break traffic laws because the system's time limit leaves them nothing else. And some are looking after a child while they ride. And today, in 2026, with more and more riders, a single order pays 50 cents. You may want to ask, why don't you just find some other way? Most of them come from the countryside, where the local industry collapsed a long time ago. A lot of their hometowns were poisoned by wastewater from illegal factories, so even drinking water became a problem, let alone farming. If they took one of the other jobs available, factory work or waiting tables, the pay is so thin it can be as little as a third of what delivery brings in. All of this builds into a very deep anger. And that anger is what pushes them into doing things that hurt the customer and do nothing for themselves. But sabotaging someone's food is not something that only happens in China. In 2014, in New Jersey, a cook spat in a customer's bread, and he ended up with 3 years. So why did China's answer to food sabotage end up being this insane amount of packaging? Part of it is the law. China still has no real law aimed at a person who tampers with food, only at someone who poisons it. A lot of people blame the government for that, but I don't. China has not been a modern state for very long, and it is normal for a lot of laws to still be catching up. In early 2026, the government pushed the platforms to scrap the fines riders were paying for running late, and by April the biggest one had dropped them nationwide. The other problem is that there are simply too many of them. China has 13 million delivery riders, and the country runs tens of billions of orders a year. The police do have charges loose enough to cover someone who tampers with food, but they could never keep up with numbers like that. So the punishment you see most often for a rider who tampers with an order is a fine worth a few dozen dollars. Meanwhile, Chinese industry is both enormous and cheap. All that packaging looks complicated, but the cost of it has been squeezed down to a few dozen cents. And labor is cheap enough that a lot of the bigger restaurants will hire someone whose only job is packing the delivery orders. So on the question of delivery safety and tamper-proofing, China has shown an interesting kind of spontaneity. The traditional approach would be to lean on the courts. But like I said, the legal route in China does not really work. What China chose was the path that looked easiest to it, leaning on its own industrial strength and its cheap labor to route every delivery in tamper-proof packaging.